Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to start to actually work with the image and go through and see what some of the different tools actually do in Photoshop. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring in an image. There's a few different ways we can do this. I can go ahead and drag it in, or I can go ahead and drag it over the Photoshop icon right here. And if I drop it, it'll open it for me. Another way I could do it is go File, Open, and just find it wherever it is on my desktop or on my computer, and open it from there. A couple things we'll notice before we get started is that if I look over here in the layers area, a few different things have happened. So it's brought in my image so I can see it set it as a background here. There's a lock button right here. If we drag over, we can see what it says. Indicates the layer is partially locked. Now to start to edit our photo, we want to unlock this. All we have to do to unlock it is double click. A couple other quick things I just want to show you briefly. You can see we have the hide button right here, and it just indicates visibility. So if for whatever reason I have this layer in here, but I don't want anybody to be able to see it, I can click on that and it won't be there anymore. Another quick one I want to mention is opacity. So opacity is just kind of a measure of how transparent our image is, and the more I drag it down towards 0, you can see the more it goes. So depending on the kind of project in which you want to make, you may want to use the opacity tool, but just kind of keep it in mind, so we'll probably come back to it later. Next, I want to go down kind of the toolbar right here, and like we already saw, if you go over the toolbar, depending on the tool, it'll give you a name of what it is and gives you kind of an idea what it does. So the first one right here is the Move tool. So, select this layer. And that's one thing to remember. If you want to start working with different layers, once we have more, to actually work on that specific layer, you need to click on it over here in the layers area. So I've selected my layer, and I have the Move tool, so you can see very easily I can move it. This will probably be a lot more useful when you start adding text and different kind of visuals on top of our photos. The next tool is a marquee tool. I'm going to jump over that for now. Next, I want to look at the lasso tool. And as we get into these, you'll see that some of these different tools have little boxes, or little triangles down the bottom right. This indicates that there's more options under that. You can see that there's a few different lasso tools to pick from, and what this will actually allow us to do is draw a shape around part of the image and cut it out, or move it, or do whatever else with it. There's two different kind of lasso tools right here I'd like to talk about. One is just the plain lasso tool, which works as kind of a freehand lasso tool. So depending on my hand, I can go around and cut different things out. Magnetic lasso tool will actually follow edges with similar colors. So first, let me show you lasso tool. I can click, hold down, and this is going to be very good here. I'm kind of doing a freehand. And let me go through real fast so we get the idea. And the big thing is I just need to make sure I connect both ends. And I've essentially cut it out now. So let's pretend I did a really great job. I could click back on my Move tool, and then that is actually cut out. So if you're going to use the freehand lasso tool, I recommend, and we'll get down to the magnifying glass here in a little bit, zoom in very, very close. Because one of those things is the closer you get zoomed in, once you have it back at regular size, it's a little bit harder to see imperfections in what you've cut out. The next one, I want to show you the magnetic lasso tool. And this is kind of nice because if we click once, it'll kind of follow along the edges of the color. So right here, I'm kind of cutting out the door. If you're concerned that you might kind of lose the edge or lose your line, you can click again. And you can click in smaller segments if you like, or just kind of let it go. So this is just to show you. So it's probably not going to be perfect. And let me connect the two ends together. So if I take the Move tool again, I can take the door off. Kind of neat. You can see even if we look in there a little bit, there are some imperfections. So once again, just like with the other tool, I would probably want to zoom in a little bit more to make sure I got it exactly right. click off of here. If you want to undo this, all you have to do is take the tool and click in our gray area. It'll select it. Okay, let me select the move tool here. Look down at some others. Quick selection tool, I'm going to jump over that for now. But a big one we're going to be using is the crop tool. So to use the crop tool, you can see there's a few different options here to slice, but we'll come back to that later. So first for the crop tool, you can see if I select that, things change at the top here, and it'll give us a few different options of how we actually want to crop it. Cropping just allows us to resize our image or cut certain things out within the image. You can see some things here, and in the newer versions of Photoshop, they do have some ratio just set up for us. So I can go down 5:7, 2:3, or I can go ahead and just type in my own size right here. So for example, let me just type in, say, 800 px by 400 px. So it's a little different ratio than my current photo, but you can see if I click with the move tool or just click with my cursor again, I can move it and then begin to crop some different things out. If I want to or not want to crop it at this size, I can click on the move tool again, and it'll give me a pop-up box that allows me to don't crop or crop. Keep in mind that we can do it with pixels. I could also say 800 inches, although that's going to cause a little bit of problems because it's going to make our photo very, very big. Okay. The next tool in this first part right here is the eyedropper tool. And we haven't gotten down there yet, but you can see we have a colors palette right down here in the bottom. One of the nice uses for the eyedropper tool is it allows us to actually pull colors out of our image, and it'll bring them right down here. So let's say, for example, I'm working on a design with this van right here, and I want to have some text across the top that matches the color of the van. A nice thing I could do is use this eyedropper tool, and it'll go ahead and pull that color right there. So later when we get down to the text area, I can easily make sure I match that text color.